Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Ben Bateman.
And I'm Andrew Guy.
And we are the Action Guys. Gonna roll on right through it this time.
What an interesting weekend we just had.
It's been a heck of a weekend, heck of a week, heck of 2 weeks, we'll even say.
We're not even talking about movies at this point. It's just been crazy.
It's been wild. It's been busy. It's exciting. We're excited to be here on the Action Guys, talking to you guys, the loyal fans of the show.
Yeah.
There's a lot to update you on. Today on the show, we are going to be talking about the true Best Picture of 2018. What is that? As you may have guessed or seen from the title, it may have something to do with Spider-Man.
Might just have a little bit to do with a movie called Into the Spider-Verse.
Just possibly.
Winner of Best Animated Film, but that is neither here nor there. So it's the Oscars, right?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Green Book wins once again, which is kind of, it was the favorite.
Did you see the reaction, the Chadwick Boseman to Michael B thing?
Oh yeah, the shade, right? Like,
it's just ridiculous. It's like it just felt like, I mean, I don't know why people are focusing on it so much. It was like made a lot of news, but it's just like one of those things where you're like, that's actually what it's like.
Well, because
front row at the Oscars,
the biggest stage in the world. You were in the biggest movie in the world, and you are still sitting there going, "Yep, we still got screwed."
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy. And like I keep hearing people referring it to Driving Miss Daisy 2. I heard Spike Lee had an outburst. He tried to leave, which I understand because his movie actually probably should have won. It was a better movie.
I think it's funny, like a few years back when I was working a lot for Black Hollywood Live. Yes, that's a real thing.
That's great.
I was on a show called The Branded Athlete, and I was on it for like probably like a year. We interviewed a bunch of athletes.
You have Ocho Cinco on there?
Well, we didn't have Chad. We had T.O.
Oh, no, T.O. Yeah,
we had a bunch of guys. We had like T.O. and Nate Burleson, Captain Munnerlyn. And like I remember talking to these guys, and you'd it was early in my career as a host, so like even just interacting on a personal level with somebody who was a little bit famous was very new to me, and it was very fresh and refreshing when I would talk to like an athlete, and I'd kind of talk to them like I was on their level, And I remember like asking these guys about the NFL, and like you realize their opinion about their peers and the league they're in, the business they're in, is the same as ours. It's just like, yeah, I think he's kind of a diva, or like, oh, they're not going to win, they can't win, and it's like it's the same conversations we have. So you got to imagine. I relate this to Chadwick and Michael B. Just probably ahead of time, like, this is not going to win.
There's no way.
Green Book, it's like, Chadwick's probably like, you watch. And then it happens and he looks back and he gives that look.
I told you, man. I told you.
Yeah, like.
Which is crazy because I haven't seen Green Book, so I can't really speak on it personally. But from what I've heard from everyone, every single person goes, it's fine.
Yeah, it's totally that movie. It's that kind of irrelevant movie. And it's going to inspire a conversation for us here talking about the nature of Oscar-winning films, Best Picture-winning films, and how so often they feel out of touch with what is actually relevant that year, which would suggest that it's possible that there was a better movie this year than even one of the films that was nominated.
Yeah, 100%. So I think what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the true Best Picture winner of the Oscars.
Best film of 2018.
And why. And it is Into the Spider-Verse. And of course, before that, you guys got to follow us on social.
You got to follow the socials. We're at Team Action Show on Twitter. We got Instagram at Action Industries. If you guys go and respond there's a contest running every week on the story. We post an image from an action movie. If you can guess what that image is, if you're first, we will answer one of your questions on Action Movie Anatomy, which is our other show we do every week. We have Action Industries page on Facebook. If you go like that, Action Industries right now is blowing up
everywhere. We've got an incredible team working for us. We are so very lucky to have them. And the very last thing, you guys have talked about it at home. You guys have been raving about it in the comments. Ben and I made it happen. We will have full episodes of Tag on video for you guys.
Tag is short for the Action Guys.
Oh yeah, the Action Guys. The only way you guys are actually going to be able to get those episodes, though, you got to follow us on socials. You got to follow us on those platforms so you can actually see where we'll be releasing them.
Yes, we'll be releasing them soon. That we're working out currently exactly how that's going to work, but absolutely do that. It's going to be an exciting way for us to continue to give back to you guys with more content. So this year, Green Book wins Best Picture, and I would contend that of the films that were nominated for Best Picture, this was one of the years I can remember in memory that had the most irrelevant films. I don't mean irrelevant in the quality.
Right.
I don't mean that The Favorite's a bad movie. I don't mean that Green Book is, I would give a thumbs down. That's not the point.
And you and I both love Viggo and Mahershala.
Yeah, big
time. It has nothing to do with them. And Peter Farrelly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had a great conversation with Peter Farrelly a couple years ago before he went into production on this movie. He was so excited about it. I mean, honestly, I'm happy for him.
Interesting.
Yeah, you remember when I met him?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what I will say is that so often when years like this happen, it reminds you of the irrelevance of the movies that are getting put up for Oscars. Because to Joe Schmo movie viewer, like the general movie fan, Roma, the only accessible thing about Roma to them is the fact that it's on Netflix.
Right. But even then, it's subtitled too. So you've already got
black and white subtitles.
Right, black and white subtitles. So why isn't this best foreign film?
Yeah.
Is it because it's released in America?
I mean, it got nominated and won for best foreign film.
That's
but
what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you have Roma, you have The Favorite, which again is like some. I mean, The Favorite reminds me of a movie like Gosford Park, where it's like, where it's just like that movie that by the time the Oscars are over, the movie already feels culturally relevant. Like it's just not going to make an impact. And then you look over on the other side of the coin, and you're like, this category, best animated feature, has existed since 2001.
Only 18 years.
Only 18 years. And in that time, we only could point to 3 films that have won this award that feel kind of irrelevant. And even that's a stretch.
Yeah, they feel kind of irrelevant. And the reason that Ben says it's a stretch is because, let's start from the beginning. We'll go with Wallace and Gromit and the Curse of the Were-Rabbit, I think.
Yeah, something like that. 2005. And I remember when this won.
Yeah.
I remember they announced it, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize there was a Wallace and Gromit movie this year. I never watched that cartoon.
Well, because Chicken Run came out a few years before this,
it's like 2000, I think.
Yeah, and I remember like kind of. I went to that movie with my friend and his dad was kind of like talking. He referenced Wallace and Gromit. He like mentioned this kind of claymation and how fun it is, and like you got to go watch this Wallace and Gromit thing. So I understand why it won in 2005. I mean, not only was it probably the best of the year, I can't remember.
There was no Pixar movie in 05.
There was no Pixar movie in 05. It also has a massive cult following because Wallace and Gromit had this huge audience from a different platform. You know, I mean, a different, not from the feature film. So that makes sense.
2011, you got Rango.
Yeah.
And now, by 2011, mind you, we were starting to get into a phase where the animated films that were coming out were of a high enough class on a year-to-year basis.
Did Scorsese direct this?
Rango?
No, wait. Who directed this?
Gore Verbinski.
I was like, someone.
It's irrelevant. Yeah. And we were starting to get to a point where these movies would come out, and like Rango was interesting. It was funny. It's weird. It's got Johnny Depp. It's like before the Johnny Depp kind of starts to really go off that deep end.
Before Johnny Depp just becomes the poor man's version of himself.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, not popular. And I remember Rango coming out. I've still never seen Rango, but it's not a movie that comes up very often as like that favorite that you should watch.
Right.
The people that love it, but it was a soft year. And the last one on our list here,
and this is probably the most relevant one because it beat out Wreck-It Ralph.
It's Brave. And it's 2012. It's the only Disney Princess Pixar movie.
Yeah, which I mean, we literally just said it beat out Wreck-It Ralph, and it's the only Disney Princess Pixar movie. So once again, it's Pixar's first kind of foray into Disney's classic outline.
Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously like, and again, when Brave won, I think people more looked at it as like, well, prior to Rango, Pixar had won the 4 previous years in a row.
Right.
So this is just like the Patriots lose a year and then they win again.
Right.
This is a little bit how it felt.
Yeah, it's with only like Tom and Bill as the superstars, and everyone else is just like filling roles.
It's an ugly win, but it still counts.
Yes, exactly.
And I think, and those are the only ones you can really point to that are relevant. Otherwise, you're talking about movies like Shrek and The Incredibles and Up and Toy Story 3, and you're talking about stuff like
Spirited
Frozen
Away
and Frozen, Spirited Away. I mean, movies that are regarded basically as classics, all-time movies.
Like, I mean, we did the Pixar episode last week on the show, and of the movies that we discussed, like almost all of the ones in the top 10 won Best Picture.
Yeah, totally, it's nuts. So,
Best Animated.
It's weird how that category since 2001, in 18 years, is able to go 15 for 18 in terms of the quality. But if you look at the
relevance, like every single one of those movies, and again, I've got this list pulled up. I'm just going to go through it very, very quickly. We got Shrek, Spirited Away, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, Happy Feet, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, Toy Story 3, Brave, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Inside Out, blah, 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 is Zootopia. There's a couple more. Every single one of these movies when they came out was like a cultural phenomenon. The whole world stopped and was like, we all need to talk about Coco for a month. We all need to talk about Big Hero 6 for a month. It stops because in order for it to be recognized and be the best animated feature, there's so many that come out every year that make so much money. The #1 movie, I mean, Frozen was literally the talk of the town for a year.
Frozen's the closest thing to Lion King we've had in our lifetime.
It's insane.
And for Disney, it's the only equivalent since.
And so you look at that and the juxtaposition between animated and live action, and this is where you get to take the ropes here. talk to me about like the King's speeches and the artists and
we talked about some of the snubs, and that episode, a lot of the things that we will talk about here for a second, it will be in reference to those same things.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think the King's Speech is a great example of a movie that is well liked.
Great movie.
But you also can go back further. You know, Driving Miss Daisy is a great example of a movie that sort of people can't believe. You know, Crash is one of the all-time classic examples. It gets referenced as a movie that people can't believe won Best Picture.
Especially what these movies won over.
Yeah, and I mean, you even start to go back and you start to look at movies like even like Spotlight, you know, and I love Spotlight. I think that movie is terrific.
I love it too.
Huge fan, but also, you know, Spotlight in 2015 was up against a bunch of great movies, and like it just was sort of the easy Oscar pick. I think the problem with the Oscars is that they'll lock in sometimes to a movie like Argo, and they lock into that movie, and it's like it's the safest thing for everybody to agree on because it's just this like vanilla, palatable. It's exciting enough.
There's a lot of famous people in it.
Yeah, and it doesn't have that like the movies that when you look back on those years, the reason in 2010 we talked about Inception and The Social Network, those were iconic generational movies. They literally influenced a generation of filmmakers and fans.
Right.
Those are the movies that you need to pay attention to. And so in some sense, this year at the Oscars, the fact that Black Panther got the Oscar nominations that it did is a step towards that. It's a step towards acknowledging that. This movie made $1 billion.
Right, because they kind of tried to like skirt around it with the whole popular category for a while, which was so absurd. It's like that is it's popular because it's the best.
It's disrespectful just to even talk about.
Yes.
So then, you know, they come off of that. But here's the hot take, you know, the hot take that we talked about this on Action Movie Anatomy a little bit, and I think you can you know go there again today. This will kind of lead us into the second half of our show, but my hot take is that Into the Spider-Verse deserved that Best Picture nomination over Black Panther. And I should qualify it by saying I understand Black Panther's roots are much, much deeper, right?
Yes.
Black Panther is influenced by hip hop music. It's influenced by African culture. It's actually it's employing African culture in its costume design, and it's
actually black actors working on screen in an entirely African American cast.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a whole different experience, and I get that, and it deserves accolades for that reason.
And it's a great movie.
Many people have said that Infinity War is a better movie. I agree. But Infinity War is not unique in the same way that Black Panther is unique. Now, if you go on the other side of the coin, you look at Spider-Verse. First of all, Spider-Verse is the Who Framed Roger Rabbit of animated movies, right? Or of superhero movies. It is that special. It's that unique. It's that meta. It's doing all the same things. On top of which, you have a young black Spider-Man, right? That's your lead character.
In a world where you've got live action Spider-Man, a Spider-Man that everyone loves, in a universe that everyone loves, and a sequel's coming out that everyone's waiting for. That's probably why I missed Into the Spider-Verse, because I was like, this is so out of place right now.
And the acknowledgement that Hollywood is giving by nominating Black Panther for all those awards, it's not like Spider-Verse didn't get nominated, it won an Oscar.
Right.
So like it's still great, but it's like when I look at those two movies together, I think Black Panther's really good. I think that there are better superhero movies that came out last year. I think it's maybe not even in the top 8 Marvel movies.
And what's fascinating about the conversation that we're even having right now is you are literally talking about replacing probably the next best option just because it's another superhero movie. When in reality, they should both be up there, and we should get rid of the favorite.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Like I'm not voting that you get Black Panther off the stage. I'm saying if the old white people that run the Oscars, that nominate movies for Best Picture, that decide that The Favorite and Roma and Green Book and even Vice, which like I'm the biggest Adam McKay fan. I'm the biggest Christian Bale fan. That movie had no business being anywhere near a Best Picture category.
Not even close.
Like, not even close. If those are the people that are deciding these movies need to be nominated, like, we had 8 nominations. We can have 10. Why is Spider-Verse not there?
I mean, I could not agree with you more. This movie... And let's talk about the revolutionary aspect of this film. This isn't a kid's film. This is a movie made for everyone that is drawn.
Yeah.
That is what it is. And like, you know, Coy was on the show and he said that they even make jokes still when they're introducing the best animated feature and the nominees and all that. And so I couldn't agree more. I think that this movie it was so perfect all the way across the board. Now, one thing that it suffered from was the overhype.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when something is this revolutionary.
And we waited to see it. You
did.
and I both, when it came out and everybody was talking about it, we didn't see it maybe for that reason, and we decided to cover it on the show. So we both saw it this week, and it was. I even still felt it was almost overhyped because of the Oscar win, but I still just loved it. I still thought it was so great.
It's so well cast. You see so many people from different parts of Hollywood all working together. It's so cool to see Nick Cage and Haley Steinfeld and Mahershala Ali.
Yeah.
And then you got Shamik Miller, or Shamik, what's his last name?
More
coming on, who is just like, who are you? I don't even know who you are, and you're leading this movie, and you're so great. So, I think I agree with you on that.
It just had so many cool things. I mean, it had the hip hop angle as well. It had like
the art, the street art, which is so big,
and the color of this movie, and like the design of the animation, the voice acting, the moments. I mean,
the moments.
Yeah, it had so many good moments. So I think we both are pretty much in agreement that this movie, what I'll always say about a movie like this, anytime that a movie pushes the envelope and like decides to try to be revolutionary, to try to be different, it's very difficult to evaluate it in a historical context when it's fresh. It's really hard to do. I mean, it's hard to do that with any great movie. But like when I think about Logan now, I feel differently about Logan than I did when I saw it the first time. When I saw it the first time, I was like, this is arguably the best superhero movie, top 2 ever. And now it's like I love Logan, and I still might put it there, but it doesn't have the hyperbole around it that makes me feel like it just deserves that spot.
Like this is something so special. Like it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Whereas this is actually so special.
We talked about WALL-E, when WALL-E came out versus WALL-E today. It doesn't feel like the same conversation, and so that's a little bit of why with Spider-Verse, like I'm willing to say Spider-Verse has deserved to be nominated for Best Picture, and it may be one of the great movies. In a year, I'll probably feel a little bit more like, how special was that movie really? I'll be able to answer that question.
Yeah, definitely, because the recency bias is really tough when you love a movie that much. Because I mean, like I said, one of the first episodes we ever did of Action Movie Anatomy was on Mad Max Fury Road. Right. And I was like, this is the best movie ever made. Period. And that was it's not. It's not even close.
I draw stars,
and I love it. So I think what we can do now is let's talk about like. We do fist pump. Fist pump, we talk about it all the time. Yep. We'll get into it a little bit more, but let's do like different fist pumps. Let's do like an emotional one. Let's do like an actual action one, and then let's do like a geek out nerd one.
Okay. You know? That's good. I mean, before we get into that, I just do want to remind everybody really quickly, patreon.com/teamaction is the best place you guys can support us in what we're doing here. Drew and I right now are revamping the Patreon. We've done it for like a little less than a year now, probably. We were doing a lot of exclusive videos on that channel for the Patreons. And as this Schmodown season kind of gets going now, I think you guys are going to probably start to see more of that. We are going to be doing some more content. There's going to be some really cool new rewards we're introducing. So stay tuned for that if you're already a Patreon. This next month should be really exciting. A lot of big news. But check it out, patreon.com/teamaction. It is the #1 way to support us. So fist bump moments into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
What do you want to go for first with?
Well, since I'm like not a comic book nerd, I will go into the moment where I had like that giddy comic book kid inside of me.
Yeah.
And it comes in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It's the intro when they start kind of revamping every Spider-Man movie that we've seen over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, 15 or whatever. But it's like, I just love it. It shows the things that we really like about it, and then it starts to kind of poke fun at itself.
Yeah, right.
And for me, what I really liked is I was like, okay, just in the same way as Deadpool made fun of Deadpool before.
Yeah.
And like actually when Gosling played Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine or whatever.
Reynolds.
Or not Reynolds. Yeah. Gosling. Yeah, when Reynolds plays him and you're like, it's the worst thing to cover up his mouth and all that.
Yeah.
I loved in this movie in the beginning, I did have a literal fist pump when they made fun of Spider-Man 3 and the dancing. And I died. I literally was dying in the theater laughing because I was like, and then I was so excited.
Yeah.
I was like, if this is what they're doing in the very beginning, they're already making up for the things that we hate.
Yeah.
Then the next 2 hours of this, I am dying to watch.
I think like what I love so much. Okay, first of all, I agree with you. Wholeheartedly.
Good to say. Good.
One of the things that I love so much about that moment in Spider-Man 3, the dancing, is that I think like when you think about the stage that people are on where they decide to do something different, we'll say, when Sam Raimi is like, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do with Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3. Like, we're going to go for it.
Yeah.
Toby, dance like this. Have fun with it, whatever it is. And like, and you're like, we're going to look back in 50 years at some of the most embarrassing things that have ever happened in a big budget movie. And one of the most embarrassing things that will ever have happened in a big budget movie will be that sequence in Spider-Man 3. It gets more ridiculous by the year because you look like Spider-Man 2 is an all-time superhero movie.
Yep.
Spider-Man 3, like, even just like Toby watching the dailies and being like, guys,
are you sure?
Delete that.
Are you sure?
Just get rid of that film. Don't ever put that anywhere. It's like so embarrassing.
Oh, and I have a feeling that you got to be able to feel that on set because the quality of 1 and 2 are astronomically, exponentially better than 3.
I've heard that Raimi wasn't getting what he wanted for 3, so he intentionally sabotaged it. That's what that scene is.
I have heard that too.
Yeah.
That is so interesting, but it doesn't do you any favors as a director.
No, definitely not.
Okay, so what's your geek out comic book kid moment?
My geek out comic book kid moment, and we talked about this a little bit on Action Movie Anatomy, but I think it's the treatment of Wilson Fisk as a character, Kingpin. I just thought that they got the size of the character and how like comic book cartoon large he is.
Yeah.
They understood how menacing he's supposed to be, because the thing about Kingpin is that he's just a man, but he's a man that like utilizes his size as his greatest strength.
Yes.
And in the comic books, it was always the case. Like he could fight Daredevil, he could fight Matt Murdock, even though Murdock was like super strong and like coordinated, but like,
and like
Kingpin,
actually kind of a superhero.
If Kingpin could like grab his leg or like, you know, he was able to take him on and fight him. Kingpin would like train, you know, like they would always have scenes of him like training with like doing karate and stuff.
Well, and I mean, because I only really know Kingpin well from Daredevil on Netflix, and like even watching D'Onofrio play him, I love the way that they just, because he's still so big in that.
Yeah.
But I loved how they made him still so agile.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things about Kingpin.
Yeah, he truly does get to be like a super villain in the sense of his like strength and speed and like not in a comic book way that he would be actually a superhero or a super villain like with super powers, but he's just like that focused and coordinated like Batman gets to be.
Right.
He gets to have that quality.
Yeah, and yeah, I love it. I love how he just. By the way, there are going to be a lot of spoilers for Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Spider-Verse, I think you definitely got to turn this off and go watch it because we're going to just ruin the movie.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you 2 seconds for that.
What?
And I also love how he just kills Prowler.
Yeah.
I just love it. He just shoots him.
He just shoots him.
And it doesn't even, he gives him a half a second. He's like, Prowler, take him out.
Yeah.
Doesn't do it, shoots him. I love it. So I think my next moment, and it's weird because there's so many really great, we call this explosion of emotion on Action Movie Anatomy, and there's so many excellent moments in this movie that really want to, like, they bring you to tears. And I talked about mine, a couple of them on AMA, and I mentioned that, you know, I really love the moment when his dad yells out, "Get up, Spider-Man."
Yeah.
But I actually noticed early on in this movie when it was going to be like that. I could tell early on that was going to be that feeling, that like overwhelming emotional feeling was going to pop up a handful of times. And I realized it early on when he's talking to his teacher at the academy.
Yeah.
And she goes, "You're trying to quit, and I'm not going to let you."
Yeah.
That's all it was. And she's not even in the movie again.
No, she's not.
And I thought she might be like that character to him.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping it. But for some reason, it was just the way that they did it, and the fact that he got a 0% means that he actually got 100%. And the way that she wrote in the 1 and the 0 on the other side of it. And when she said that line, it wasn't even that moment that was like so great. It was that it happened, and I was like, wow, if that is happening right now with someone who's probably irrelevant, imagine what's going to happen later on.
Right.
I was straight up tears coming out of my eyes when we got the dad outside the door.
Yeah, it was a big one.
And like when he actually sees Prowler go down, like tears in my eyes.
Yeah, for sure.
So I hope I didn't take yours.
No. There's a ton of good ones, and I think for me the next big one is when you see the shot that's on the cover of the box and in the trailer where he jumps off the building, and he's falling, but then they have the shot of him falling up. That's such a cool moment. It's such a cool, like, magical. What this movie really does is it captures the magic. And Infinity War has its own sort of magic. It has its own, I'm watching a crossover event in a comic book that's going to take 12 months to wrap up, and it's all in a movie. That's one kind of magic. This has the kind of magic when you read, like, Ultimate Spider-Man #1 and you're a kid and you're, like, imagining what it would be like to get these powers and, like, discovering them for the first time. And when he makes his suit, it's after especially the moment where Peter B. Parker is like, then fine. Then then sting me or go invisible on command.
Yeah.
Do it. And if you can't, then you're not ready. And I'm going to sacrifice myself because I'm a hero, and that's what Spider-Man does.
Yes.
If you can't do it, then I'm going to do it. and then the fact that he has to rebound from that, and
I love that moment. That's such a classic comic book moment.
Yeah.
Do it. I can't. Try harder. I can, you know? But they executed it so well there. I think my final one, and this is like another reason why the door for animation is open so wide now, because this is another great thing about it, is just because a famous person is voicing you doesn't mean that character is going to be like prominent.
Yeah.
That just basically means this is a movie that people want to be in.
Yeah.
So what I love is the fact that you've got this doctor that's working for Fisk.
Yeah, right.
And she's finally gets Peter B. Parker in the chair, and she's kind of like, oh, you gained some weight. This is interesting. And she kind of like straps him down, and you're like, oh, whoa. So I knew she had a little evil in her.
she had to be.
They had to be.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I'm going to keep you here until you do. And I was like, oh, so she's like just an evil doctor.
Yeah.
And then she pulls the hair up.
Yeah.
And you see that her hair looks like an octopus.
Yeah.
And I lost it.
Yeah.
Because I love Alfred Molina's Doc Ock.
Yeah.
But this reimagining of that character, and I don't know if this is a character that was in the comic books.
I'm not sure if it is, yeah.
She was so badass. I loved the different and how the arms were like more human-like and like like malleable and could like get bigger and small. Like I love that, and just the way she moved. She was my favorite villain. I think
she was sweet.
She was awesome.
The villains were pretty cool.
The design behind her.
Yeah, the fact that you get her, the fact that you get to see Prowler, you get Tombstone, you get Scorpion. Like
and I didn't even know those three existed.
Yeah, they didn't choose Venom, they didn't choose Green Goblin, they didn't choose
Sandman.
Yeah, the retreads. They chose new ones that we hadn't seen as an audience, which I think was pretty sweet. I mean, for the most part, obviously, we'd seen a version of Doc Ock, but I think my last fist pump is just the moment that you realize that we're going way off the deep end with all the spider people.
Right.
And you've met Gwanda, and who I love so much.
Her.
I loved her. Like, I love their high school, middle school flirting. I love
I felt like a 10 or 12-year-old boy watching this movie with a crush on a girl.
Yeah.
Watching her.
Yeah,
and I'm
totally.
a 30-year-old man. And it almost made me feel like a little weird. But I'm like, it's a cartoon and she's a superhero. And how could you not love her?
And you love Haley Steinfeld anyway, so it's okay.
I really do.
Yeah.
She's so amazing.
Yeah, she's great. So, no, I loved her as a character, but I love that we've met who we think are going to be our team, and then we get the additional 3 spider people: Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, and what is it, Spider Mech or something?
Yeah, it's like the anime.
That must be a character that exists that I don't know about.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about that. We didn't even talk about it on AMA at all.
No, I mean most of those characters were like weird, like offshoot. Versions of Spider-Man.
Right, because the Spider Noir, I remember Coy was saying
I'm sure Spider-Man Noir is a thing that happened. But what I can say is, of those Spider-Man characters, it's Nick Cage's Spider-Man Noir that got me the most. I mean, I honestly I kept saying to people when they'd be like, Spider-Man Noir was so good.
They'd be like, I just got out of a screener of Into the Spider-Verse. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I'd be like, how was Nick Cage? Was Nick Cage good in that movie? Like, what?
Like, what is wrong with you?
And I'd be like, oh yeah, he was great. And like, I was just so excited that Cage was going to be in this movie and it was going to be a big deal. And like, he's a huge comic book fan. Massive.
Oh yeah, I've heard about it. I mean, because he wanted to be in the Superman Origins movie or whatever.
Yeah, and he was in Ghost Rider. Obviously, that was a good decision for his career.
It's real great.
But he's just great at Spider-Man Noir. He's hilarious. It's funny. He pokes fun at himself. I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a fun thing that we talked about that I think is interesting. It was a question that was prompted to us by one of our fans asking, like, now that this movie has happened and we saw what it did and how revolutionary it can be, what other properties or entities would you like to see this kind of take on? And what I think is so fascinating is that this movie went into so many other dimensions and did so many things, so many like reality bending things on screen that I don't think you could actually execute properly, practically, or live action. I would love to see another comic book story or entity be done like this, and start like this.
It would be awesome. I mean, I think what's cool too is there's a bunch of different ones. On some level, we got the beginnings of this with X-Men when they did Days of Future Past, right? You're mixing your 2 universes, which when they came out with First Class, I'm not totally sure if that was the intention or if that was actually just they were like, we can do this now. I have never looked into it to know. It seems now, looking back on it, like it was probably intentional.
What did they marry?
X-Men First Class, because it's like new characters, it's a reinvention, it's like a new universe.
I see. Gotcha.
Because it was after Last Stand,
yeah.
right? And then they take those performances and those characters and they mix them together with Days of Future Past. So you get Patrick Stewart, and you get all those characters to come back from that original trilogy. Seemed like First Class was a reboot. And I think maybe it was, but then they were like, "This was successful enough. We think we can get Singer back and just do this again." Well, Singer, that's a sore subject. Not fun to talk about. But I think, for the other ones, like the ones that come to mind for me are ones where there have been prominent pieces of media that then go on to be like the Marvel Action Hour is a great example. Back growing up, I used to watch 30 minutes of Fantastic Four, the cartoon, and 30 minutes of Iron Man, the cartoon. This is in like 1994. This was like a thing that was on TV. People don't remember that existed, but that was one of the earliest memories that I have loving Iron Man.
Yeah.
So like if there happened to be an Iron Man version of this, you would have to think they would employ some of that, and they would use that probably.
And I can totally imagine RDJ wanting to do a voice acting of Iron Man, but not wanting to put the suit on again and act on set.
Something. So I mean, that's one that's I think really, really cool to think about.
I would love to see the Deadpool of this, in the sense of I want to see a dark, R-rated animated feature on Spawn.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like they're trying to do Spawn again anyway, and the first one was so bad. And
well, here's the funny part. There has been a dark, R-rated animated feature of Spawn. It happened. It didn't.
I think I know this.
It didn't get theatrical release.
But I think I've seen the box at the video store back when I was a kid.
Had it.
What's it called?
I think just Spawn. And because there was a Spawn cartoon, but there was this R-rated Spawn. There's like tits in it and stuff, and there's like
dead. Did you just say tits?
And like, yeah, I mean, as a kid, there's knives and stabbing and like. I watched this as a kid. I remember there's like nudity and stuff. Like I had the video of it.
What the hell? How do I not know about this?
I want to say it came out in like 97 or 8 or something like that. Probably would be my guess.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, as a kid,
it's like real bad.
Well, I think as a kid I thought it was pretty sweet, but it.
Well, yeah, because the other one I was talking about would be the Fantastic Four, but I think I'd be super down to see a Spawn one, but apparently I just missed the boat.
I just don't know what's going to happen when they do that Spawn reboot. Like Jamie Foxx's Spawn is, we'll see. I mean, I've seen Jamie Foxx be good before, so.
Yeah, we definitely have. Have you seen The Soloist?
They would need to get Gerard Butler in the film.
Gerard. Okay, so this is basically going to wrap up our conversation on Into the Spider-Verse. When do you think a movie can actually win Best Picture that's animated? When's it going to happen? Toy Story 3 was nominated. Inside Out was nominated. Or no, Up was nominated. Yep. This was not. But when will one actually just win Best Picture?
Well, okay, so I've been saying this for a while now, and this will be a roundabout way of answering that question. So Black Panther's Best Picture nomination is interesting for a couple of reasons, right? Black Panther is not the best superhero movie ever made. I don't think anybody would argue that it is. I think many people would argue that there are better MCU movies. People would argue Dark Knight is better. Like, there's a lot of people. Now, Black Panther is one of the most unique and important ever made, right? Well, we already talked about the reasons. And so the reason Black Panther gets elevated to the stage that it's on is for that reason. It's a really great movie in the comic book genre. It made a ton of money.
And all those other things.
And it has all the other factors.
Yes.
However, in 10 years, when we look back on Black Panther, it won't be Black Panther that's remembered. It'll be, for those reasons, it'll be a movie like Moonlight that's remembered more than Black Panther. It's a more significant movie.
Right.
But what Black Panther will be remembered for is being the first superhero film that was ever nominated for Best Picture. And it's going to open the door for the next one of those to win Best Picture when it's the right time, right? Whether it's, and it won't be Endgame, but whether it was something like an Endgame in 10 years from now being the Return of the King factor.
But even then, you're still thinking it's all live action, right?
Well, so that's my answer there. And so I think if you kind of correlate that with animated and you apply the same logic, 91 Beauty and the Beast was the first time that an animated film was ever nominated for Best Picture. 2009 and 10, the two Pixar films you talked about, that was after they expanded categories so that you could have more than 5 movies.
Right.
That made it possible for more prominent nominations. Now we're at a point where every year the Oscars are working to make sure they're incorporating younger audiences, to make sure that they're capturing the attention of people that care about things that aren't Green Book and The Favorite.
Right.
And I think what that means is it's probably not the next one, but it'll probably be like in the next 10 years, I'll bet you 5 movies get nominated for Best Picture that are animated, and sometime in the next 10 years, one of them will win.
Do you think we'll just get rid of the Best Animated Feature category then?
No, because like in the same way that it's important that Roma won Best Animated Film and was also
you
nominated.
mean foreign?
Yeah, Best Foreign. I think it's good to have both. You know, like you want there to be an animated feature category so that like Spider-Verse is going to absolutely crush that category.
Right.
However, is it good enough to win against all movies? I think it's good to have them separated.
Yeah, okay. I like that. Yeah, it's just interesting. It's just interesting I thought to bring up because I don't really know. I don't know the answer. It feels like we're still probably like a decade away from an animated movie winning Best Picture. And it definitely feels like it probably... It's so weird. Like, what kind of movie is it going to be? Is it going to be like what's that Wachowski brothers movie that Keanu was in that was drawn?
Scanner Darkly?
Yeah, Scanner Darkly. Like, is it going to be something like that where it's like an adult film that is animated or like drawn, whereas this is like a movie that is like a kid's movie?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does it have to be the Moonlight that is drawn or animated to win Best Picture finally?
You would think that like this movie would have been revolutionary enough to get that 9th nomination.
I really truly do.
It's still really surprising that it didn't. And I think it's just because it's a Spider-Man movie is the reason that it didn't. And so, but I do think that those Academy voters are beginning to soften to the idea of things outside the traditional box being nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to be next year. I think we're literally probably looking at, you'll see 3 or 4 Best Picture nominations before you see a Best Picture winner, is my guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, I agree.
Yeah,
we can leave it at that. I hope that we see if animated movies keep doing what this movie does, I would love to see one win Best Picture soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And I think using the full 10 nominations is something that I wish the Academy did more often. I don't understand why they feel the need to nominate less than the maximum number.
Right, like you expanded it for a reason. Just fill them up.
Right. I think it allows 10, or does it just allow 9? I think it allows 10.
I thought it did.
Pretty sure it allows 10.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up the episode here. So thank you for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Share your thoughts below in the comments. Let us know, what's your favorite animated movie of all time? Do you agree with us? Is Spider-Verse the best movie of 2018? Is it as good as Black Panther? Is it better than Infinity War?
Yeah,
Where do you stand on it?
And let us know what other entities you would like to see animated or drawn in the future. What movies that exist now or have died in the past that you would love to see brought back to life. Maybe it is Lord of the Rings that is animated in the future. Who knows? Let us know down in the comments, and make sure to follow us on all of our social platforms. That's at Team Action Show on Twitter, at Action Industries on Instagram, and you can also find the Action Industries page on Facebook. Go give it a like, and you will be able to find the full episodes of the Action Guys on video.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
And stay tuned, guys. Next week, we will be covering greatest first-time directors, greatest first films from directors of all time. We have a really exciting episode going up next week that correlates with our episode of Action Movie Anatomy covering Get Out with the release of Us coming up, which we're really, really excited about.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you soon. And thank you to every member of Action Industries for making this last couple weeks shine. We could not have done it without you guys, and we love you.
Yeah, absolutely. And welcome Jacob Patrick to the team.